Good day. Welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. I'm Eoin Devereux, news reporter with the Banner Press, welcoming you once again. Joined this week by Kira Paterson, news reporter as well for the Banner Press. Good to have you in, Kira.
Yeah, good to be here, I guess.
Well, in the grand scheme, I mean, it could be worse. Could be outside, freezing right now with these frosty conditions.
It's crazy. It was like 0 degrees last week, and all of a sudden it's like minus 40 with the wind chill.
The interesting thing as well is, once again, the story behind the stories on this is our front page on this week's edition was dramatically different. We had a picture of some of the winter conditions, the blizzard that came into our area, the ice cold conditions, but we ended up pulling that, actually pretty much pulling it entirely from the newspaper this week, because several other stories of significance came across our desks, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Let's get this one, quite honestly, let's get this one out of the way right now. It's something that everybody in Neepawa and a lot of people across Manitoba have been talking about over the last week since the RCMP put out the release this time last week. A Neepawa man facing multiple charges, a slew of charges related to luring, child pornography. These are the types of stories that none of us, quite honestly, have the stomach for, really. Mm-hmm. You know, let's not sort of mince words on that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kira, it's hard to throw to a person on this, but what's your takeaway on what was reported?
It's just weird to think about, because it's somebody from Neepawa. You live in a small town, and you're like, well, it could be somebody I know. And before you hear the name or see the picture, it's like, who would this be? And then you see who it actually is, and it's like, okay, phew, I don't know that person. But it's just a weird story when you hear about people doing things like that, like pretending to be a teenager and Snapchatting people and chatting with them on Facebook and whatever, and trying to seduce them, basically. It's not something you really like to cover in a newspaper.
But it is, again, unfortunately, something that does have to be covered. I mean, we were talking about this before we went on air, especially when it comes to a small town, because in a small town, everybody seems to know everybody, and everybody seems to know everybody's business at some times. And to have something like this fly under the radar like this and then just come out of nowhere is a shocker for a community that feels very sort of together as one. You can find that story obviously on page 1. It reminded me of something else actually that occurred while I was working in Brandon for a radio station there. We were covering a story about a assault and robbery that occurred. And I was working the desk one day, Kira, and actually the mother of the individual in question phoned up the station, wanted to talk to the news reporters, and was yelling at me about, how could you do this? How could you talk about it? And it was like, ma'am, respectfully, ma'am. First off, the term allegedly. This is a little trade secret. The term allegedly is a reporter's friend, because I never said that this individual 100% did this. It was alleged. The charges had not yet been proven. Over the course of the next few months, they would be proven, and that individual would get a short term in jail. So, but that's the way it is sometimes, because people are connected to the people you're talking about, whether it's on the radio, whether it's in the newspaper. And when it's good, everybody's happy, everybody's quite pleased. But when it's bad news, it really turns into a thing. And that's the tough thing about small town papers and things like that, is how do you cover the bad news when you run into these people on a daily basis?
Exactly, yeah. Well, and it's just like anything else. Like, for example, if we have heard a lot of complaints about something a municipality did or something, and then it's like, well, I live in that municipality, so I don't want to make them hate me, but these people aren't happy about what's happening on this side of a thing. So it's like, I want to be fair to the municipal people because I know they're doing the best job they can, but I also want to be fair to the people that are like, they're not doing their job. So it's like, and I'm not talking about anything anything specifically. This just is like an example that came out of my head, just totally vague and random. But you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to, especially when it's like, for example, a municipality, you have to talk to these people on a regular basis about things that are going on in their community, and you don't want to alienate yourself from them because then they don't want to talk to you for stories in the future, right? Yeah. But
no, but that's the tricky. It's a slippery slope, and it's a really thin line that you have to sort of walk on these things. Sometimes you want to treat everyone fairly when it comes to writing the stories, but you've got to state what you know. This information, it is on the front page. With another story we're going to be getting to very shortly. It's what we know. It's what we have confirmed from representation from the RCMP. There is no there is no opinion. There is no hearsay. There is nothing that is put in it. It is what it is, and we let the public decide on that moving forward. So that's the story. You can find it on page 1. It does continue on to page 18 of the newspaper this week. It's something everyone, quite honestly, has been talking about since it became public, and that's what we have to say about that right now, because we do have so much other news that we do want to talk about, and one of those pieces is actually also on the front page, and it's some big news coming from the province when it comes to some of the restrictions that are in place for Manitoba. And it feels, Kira, apparently, we're going to be able to do maybe a little bit more stuff. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
For a couple weeks.
Yeah, exactly. Not as of right now, but as of Tuesday the 8th, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
But the weird thing is about that is they announced, Premier Heather Stephenson and Dr. Brent Roussin, the Chief Provincial Public Health Officer, made the announcement on the 2nd of February that they would be relaxing some of the health orders as of the 8th at 12:01 a.m. It's going to be a 2-week period up until the 22nd of February. This is essentially a test run. But for a lot of us, for the most part, it's not changing that much. It's not like they're opening everything up and we can start burning all our masks and, and coughing on each other. No, it's just a case of just opening up. Like the best example, Kira, and this won't affect you directly because, you hate sports for the most part. Well, you like watching sports at home, right?
Some
with
sports,
the family.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Depending on what it is, but yeah.
But anytime I ask you to cover any hockey games, you just give me a look. It's just like,
exactly. Like, how dare you expect me to do that?
You so-and-so. But that's an example of it. For example, the Titans game has had a maximum capacity 250 people, just like the Winnipeg Jets, actually. But now it's been increased to 50% of the facility's capacity. So for the Neepawa Titans, for example, that means roughly about 550, 600 can now get in there. And for the Winnipeg Jets, it means about 8,000, just under 8,000 will be able to get into the arena right now. I know a lot of, even though they're playing really bad right now, Kira, Jets fans are still probably going to be feeling pretty good about that.
Oh, yeah. People want to be able to get back in there and cheer on their team. Maybe they think that that's what the difference is. If they get some fans in there cheering them on, then they'll play a little better.
Like the thing is as well, that's just one example of it. There's a few other things in there. Let me see here. Like the household thing.
Yeah.
Although I don't recall all the specific details off the top of my head here.
I think right now it's like 10 people or something allowed in your household if you're all vaccinated. But come February 8th, I think it's 25 people will be allowed to gather in your inside a private residence if everyone's vaccinated, and 50 outdoors on a private residence, which right now it doesn't seem like that's that big a deal because it's not Christmas, it's not Easter, it's not Thanksgiving. So like, why am I going to have 25 people in my house anyway? But for some people, it'll be good.
And again, I mean, even as I said, for a lot of us, it's not going to feel all that much like it's a big change. If you're going to a sporting event, If you're going to a public event as well, that you're going to notice it to a degree. But this is a test run. And the most interesting thing I thought was the quote that came from Dr. Brent Rusin near the end of the press conference, where he said, given where we are right now, this is a quote, given where we are right now, if we don't see anything unexpected that we're looking at a restriction-free Manitoba by the spring. Now that's a lot to take in. How amazing would it be to be restriction-free by the spring? But at the same time, as we discussed, it does feel, because of our rates for ICUs and hospital beds and whatnot, it feels almost a touch premature.
Yeah, I know. 2 months seems like a lot, like really short to, and I'm just saying 2 months because it's like February, March, kind of end of March is when spring officially starts. So it just seems like when we're at the limit that we're at right now, and they're saying that this is close to the peak, which means that it's the very top of the graph. So it just seems like it's going to take a lot longer than 2 months to be down at the bottom of the graph. And that's kind of where I would think we would want to be before we start opening things up completely.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to be an expert in any of this. I just listen to what the province says and hope that they're listening to the experts.
And again, don't get me wrong here. I mean, there's nothing I would like more than a return to normalcy as well. Personally, I'm just like a lot of you people. I'm frustrated with the process, and I would like to get on with it. But unlike some people, that are being a little more vocal and angry about it, I'm trusting those who are getting paid to do this job. Maybe it's naive. Maybe it is. But I guess we'll find out. Hopefully, these little assurances that the province has given us that we could have a version of normalcy by the spring, hopefully that's something they'll be able to follow through on. Because there's been 2 years of frustration. And it'd be interesting to see a return to sort of whatever normal's going to be.
I mean, interestingly enough, it'll be pretty much exactly 2 years in March, because that was when we had our first big shutdown in Manitoba. So if March is when things big open up, it'll be like almost exactly 2 years that we were pretty well shut down.
That's right. And again, I've said this on the show many a time, I believe, over the last 2 years, because it was March 12th we were having this conversation in 2020. And we were having this conversation as we were eating food because it was my birthday. And it was like, oh, wow, hopefully they don't shut it down for the next 2 weeks. Or if they do, it'll just be a quick little thing. And I was like, nope, wasn't 2 weeks.
So much for that.
It was more.
Yep.
But hopefully my birthday in 2021 will be a little happier news.
22.
Oh God, the years just blend together. It really does.
It all felt like one really long, sad year.
Oh, for some reason now my back hurts more. Oh God, and my knees. The weather's getting to me. Yeah.
That arthritis, it's coming out.
Exactly. But a little bit of good news. Fortunately, it's a nice change of pace. All right, a little closer to home. We've got some business-oriented things to discuss. The Neepawa District Chamber of Commerce, along with Neepawa Tourism, recently had their annual general meetings. And some good news, actually, on both fronts came out of them. First off, I got to admit, this was a pleasant surprise. I was very glad to see that it was a bounce-back year financially for the District Chamber of Commerce. I mean, I'm not going to get too far deep into the numbers here, even though I'm staring right at them right now. But you can find those numbers in the article, which you can find on page 11 of the Banner Press, or you can find it online at mywestman.ca. So essentially they said like any of us, if you have more money at the end of the year than you did the year before, that's a good thing. And the Chamber of Commerce definitely hit those marks this year. An uptick in chamber buck usage seems to be part of it. They also received some government grants, which is fine. It's not something you can rely on year over year. These are extenuating circumstances, but it sounds like they're feeling pretty good about themselves right now.
I know that they're, and I don't know if it was financial trouble ever, but I know that they have sometimes had trouble in trying to get involvement from the community and that kind of a thing. So it's good when they have some positives at the end of the year and they can report on some good things, because I know last year especially, there wasn't a lot that could be done because of the COVID-19 restrictions, but this year we tried to get a little bit more involved as well. We partnered with Chamber on our Shop Hometown, I think is what it was, the Christmas draw. So there was a lot of Chamber bucks going out through there and that kind of a thing. So we saw firsthand some of the stuff that the Chamber was working on, and it was great to see that they could do some more stuff in the past bit of the year.
That's right. And because they weren't able to do some of the events they normally do, such as the fair in the spring, and of course the Christmas parade, they had to look at other revenues, other avenues in order to sort of bring community businesses together, bring the community together. So they're optimistic that they might be able to do some of these things in the year ahead, but only time will tell about that. Just a quick mention as well, Neepawa Tourism, we had our AGM as well. We do piggyback with the district, Neepawa District Chamber of Commerce, and we do thank them for that. It was my last one as well as the board chair for Neepawa Tourism. I did formally step down from that position. It's been about 2, maybe 3 years. Once again, it all blends together.
I think it might be more now.
Alma back, Alma knee, you know. But really, it's been an opportunity that I'm going to cherish in a way, strangely enough, because it taught me a lot of things. I'm serious. No, I'm serious, Kira. Little ha ha ha. Yeah. But I learned a lot of things through the chamber, met some very interesting people through it, and I'm still going to be a member. It's just I'm not going to be sitting in the big chair, you know, and running the meetings essentially. And I'm very much looking forward to sort of being able to relax a little bit on that and take in some of the things that are planned for the year ahead. I think it's going to be a great opportunity. And of course, we had a little money in the bank. You know, Makers Market was really successful, and we got a couple things planned this year, an antiques market and a showcase, a musical showcase as well. So you'll be hearing about those things in the near future very much. So, all right. One other item that came out of the chamber is the announcement of the Business of the Year. And this year, it went to Team Electronics. Team Electronics, as you may know, if you consistently read the Banner Press, shut down at the end of 2021. The owners, Dave McIntosh and Neil McNarlin, decided it was time to retire, time to step away from the business. 33 years in the community. It's great to see them get that spotlight and get that recognition. Wonderful. And it was kind of interesting to sort of hear some of the bits and pieces during the AGM about the years that were for them. So congratulations.
Yep.
Now, again, you can find both those stories. They're going to be on page 11 of this week's edition of the paper. Now, business-wise, we're going to stick in that avenue of commerce, Kira, for a story you got out of Minnedosa.
This was actually something that one of our staff members up front, Gloria, she lives in Minnedosa, and she kind of keeps an eye on the Facebook pages of Minnedosa stuff, and she tipped me off about this. And so shout out to Gloria, thanks for that. But yeah, there is a business that already exists in Minnedosa called Gold Leaf Events. You may have heard of them through some of their things like Christmas markets and different things like that. They quite often run events in and around Minnedosa and the Westman area. And they are going to be branching out and opening a boutique, and it's going to be called Gold Leaf Boutique. It is right on the main street of Minnedosa, opening February 12th. Very soon, so that's really exciting. I had the opportunity to correspond with them a little bit and get some of the details, but it's always exciting when a new business is opening. And I know, speaking of Team Electronics, when I was talking to them when they were closing their business, they were like, I always wish that you guys had more opening businesses to report on than closing businesses. So here's one for you guys. There is a new business opening in Minnedosa. It looks like it's going to be lots of really good stuff, little gifty type things, handmade, handcrafted, Manitoba made, Canada made stuff. And it's always great to see another local option, locally owned, locally operated, and that kind of a thing. And I know Minnedosa, I think, really embraces that stuff, especially. They do have quite a few local businesses, not very many chains to speak of in that town, or big box stores or anything like that. So it's always great when they can have another local option added to their little menu of businesses.
That's interesting that you bring that up, Kira, because I was just thinking about that the other day. It's like, because Minnedosa is at that level population-wise, where it's not in a franchise's best interest to go into a community that small. But then you look at Neepawa, which is a larger community and getting larger by the year, it seems. And a lot of franchises see opportunity here in Neepawa, which is great. It's fantastic. But at the same time, we do lose out to a degree some of these mom and pops, that the unique charms that they have, that, you know, especially when you look down the road and see how many of them there are down in Minnedosa.
Yeah, it's definitely amazing to see, and it's cool that there's even one more coming that's going to be added on there. Lisa Buchanan and Krista Powell, they are the owners and operators, and all the best to them. Good luck, and I can't wait to pop in there when it does open.
Well, we do have some local business, though, and one local entrepreneur that is really branching out with her photography artwork, and you've got that story for us as well on page 2.
Very good segue, I'll give you that. Local photographer Jody Baker. She works at the town office. People see her fairly often through that. We talk to her fairly often through that. But she also is quite the photographer. She uses her iPhone to get amazing pictures in and around Neepawa, kind of rural Westman area, and wherever she happens to be traveling. And there's some amazing pictures, and she started to sell them and make a bit of a business out of it in this past year. And she has added to her repertoire here by being the decor, the featured decor of Kinsman Courts 2, the new seniors housing unit in Neepawa. And they've been kind of trying to furnish it and make it feel like home. And Dana Menzies, the executive director, said that this is just kind of one of those finishing touches that really makes it feel much more homely. And especially since it's pictures of around town, familiar scenes, but in a beautiful setting, like the way that the sun hits the trees, or the way that the sky is moody above certain scenes. Like, Jody Baker has an amazing eye for this kind of thing. So it's really cool that she can have her work featured there.
Oh, most definitely. When we did the tour of Kinsman Courts 2, which was in a previous edition of the Banner Press, we were just amazed with the entire facility, but it was noticeable and it was remarked upon, just the blankness of the walls and whatnot, because they hadn't done this yet. But they said, you know what, we are doing something, we are putting something together right now. We can't give you the details on it just yet, but when we can, we'll definitely share that. And thank you very much that we're able to share that, that they shared it with us, and we're able to share it with you. All right, we're going to finish up with a couple quick sports bits, not specifically games that were going on, but just some accolades, a few shout outs for a couple individuals. So this will be relatively painless for you, Kira. First off, on the ice, a couple members of the Neepawa Titans have been recognized with awards. One was a weekly award, and the other was a monthly. First off, Cameron Trimble was one of the MJHL's 3 stars of the week. And he did it with an amazing performance in one game, where he had 6 points in the one game. 3 goals, 3 assists, and one of those goals was a winner in overtime for Neepawa. It was unbelievable. He would have had more, most likely, in the second game, but he got kicked out. He got a penalty, so he got kicked out of the game early. But that one performance alone was able to keep up with a lot of other players in the league who had 2 or sometimes even 3 games under their belt last week. So congratulations to Cameron for being named one of the MJHL's Stars of the Week. One other for the Neepawa Titans, Connor Brust, was named the MJHL's Defenseman of the Month. That's a big award. That's very important. I mean, he's been playing really well. His plus-minus out on the ice has been solid throughout the month of January. He also contributed with a few points, 9 points in 8 games for the Titans last month. Great to see. The Titans are really just sort of been one step forward, one step back all this season. They'll win a game, but then they'll lose a game. And hopefully with these players and Dallin Wilton, who won a Star of the Week last week, getting this type of recognition, hopefully this means they're turning that corner. They're coming together as a collective, coming together as a team. They'll be able to make that final sort of stretch drive. I do write about that. I'm not going to go too in-depth into it. It's on page 12. The headline is Emotional Gut Check Time for the Titans. And it really is. I mean, the games are getting fewer and fewer, and the playoff race with them, Swan Valley, and Verdun is getting tighter and tighter. So they're going to have to really sort of buckle down and get her into high gear. And other sports cliches. One other one, sports-wise, I wanted to talk about. A young lady we've talked about for many years for her efforts out on the track and field, Laura Dembo. She is away right now at Oregon State University, enhancing her education, and as part of their track and field team, she recently competed in the University of Washington Invitational based out of Seattle, Washington. And as a freshman, this is important as well, Kira, to remember, as a freshman, she finished first in her competition, the high jump. And she did it with an attempt of 1.73 meters, which I guess is 5'8".
Wow.
To put it into sort of standard.
That's taller than me.
Exactly. It was a personal best for her at an indoor event, and it finished her first in that competition.
Wow.
Congratulations to Laura. We have that information forwarded to us via online. We always do appreciate that because, again, I got to admit, I got to be honest, I don't really keep an eye on Oregon State sports as much as I should. That's my bad. Oops.
How could you? Why would you not?
What am I even doing here?
You're not even a sports reporter if you're not watching Oregon State. Come on.
Oh my God, what is wrong with me? But thank you for passing that along. We always love to share those. Much like last week, former members of the Junior A team, we shared their most recent updates, and we're sharing Laura's. We love to be able to do that. And to be able to do that, we do need your assistance on that, don't we, Kira?
Yep. We don't have 1,000 eyes, unfortunately.
Well, I got 4.
Yeah, me too.
But
that's not quite enough.
No. So if you want to get in touch with us and give us some story tips, it's always appreciated. You can contact us via email at news@neepawabanner.com. If you have some sports-related items, you can go over to sports@neepawabanner.com. Kira, you can get in touch with Kira over at pages@neepawabanner.com. Because again, my email just after only a few emails, it really gets clogged up, and just I can't receive anything. And people are calling me up saying, "Did you get my email?" No, I didn't. What are you talking about?
What email?
What's going on?
Buried in this pile of thousands of emails.
Yeah. But we do appreciate any and all tips. We are going to try and get to every one of them if we can. We're small paper. We do the best we can. And we do appreciate you sort of supporting us in any way, shape, or form, whether it's through tips, whether it's through advertising, through our classifieds, or on our regular pages. You know what? Because I don't work for free. But other than that, thank you very much. There's so much more we could have talked about on this show. A Rotary Club's contribution to the Kinsman Courts, that's something that's in there. A little item from Third Crossing Manor that we really thought was kind of cute. You can find both those stories on page 19. We got so many letters. Oh my God. We have more letters than we were able to sort of put on the page this week. So if you do send us a letter, please remember 400 words or less. Because there's a few of the letters we didn't put on a page that are way over 400. And we're trying to clamp down on that now. So there's only so much space. And if you can't sort of formalize that opinion in that space, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, you can send the letters as well to news@neepawabanner.com. Is there anything else? We got about maybe 20, 30 seconds left here. Anything else you wanted to say?
I don't think so. I think we covered it pretty well. I mean, definitely pick up the paper because there's lots in here that we didn't get a chance to mention.
That's right.
You don't want to be missing out on some of this stuff because this is one of our best papers so far this year.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And that's not hyperbole. I think it really is. And next week's going to give you a little bit of a, can't say much right now, but we got a couple chases right now that are big news. So you'll have to tune in next week to find out more. Have a good day.